Good morning, ma'am. I am Allyna, and now I am going to report Chapter 6 entitled The Tourism Public Sector. We have here the learning objectives. First is to identify the various government agencies involved in development and promotion of the tourism industry, as well as their function. Second is to describe the relationship of these agencies with one another. And lastly, explain the possibility of public service as a career in the industry. So, it was during the year 1973 when the Philippine government realized that there is a need for assigned government efforts toward trade promotion and tourism development for greater effectiveness. Hence, the need of the government immediately the priority attention. This gave rise to Prudential Decree Number 189 on May 11, 1973, creating the development of the tourism, which was enacted to make the tourism industry a positive instrument towards accelerated national development through which more people from a countries may visit and better appreciate the country and through which the Filipino themselves may learn more about the natural beauty, history, and culture of the Philippines. Thus, the development greater pride is the commitment to the nation. This chapter deals with the particular government agencies directly involved in the promotions of the tourism in our country. Several aligned government agencies may also be included in the chapter as these agencies, though not directly involved in the promotion of tourism, tend to provide a substantial contribution of the efficient operation of the tourism industry. So we have here the Department of Tourism. So the Department of Tourism or DOT was created by virtue of Presidential Decree Number 189. It is a primary policy making, planning, programming, coordinating, and administrative entity of the executive branch of the government in the development of tourism industry, both domestic and international. So we have here also here the Philippine Tourism Authority. So the Presidential Decree 564 on October 2, 1974 was enacted revising the character of the Philippine Tourism Authority, which was originally created under Presidential Decree number 189 dated on May 11, 1973. Strengthening the Philippine Tourism Authority or PTA was needed in order to be a better position to effectively unify and integrate related activities and services of both government and private entities pertaining of tourism development projects. Travel tax collected in PTA means sources of income. Travel tax is levy imposed by the government of individuals or the citizens of the Philippines permanent residents alliance who has stayed in the country for more than a year, who are leaving the country in respective of the place where the air ticket is issued as provided by a PD 1183 as amended by a PD 1205 Batas Pambansa BLG 38 and EO 283 on the travel tax. Payment of travel taxes are caused through the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So the Intramurals Administration. So for 400 years, Intramuros has been a priceless heritage of the past of the city of Manila and a major historical landmark of the Philippines. In order to preserve and enhance the historical value of Intramuros, a national historical consciousness program demands its restoration, development, and maintenance, and for the purpose, hence the Presidential Decree Number 1616 on April 10, 1979, creating the Intramuros Administration was created, charged with such vital role and responsibility. The Intramurals Administration, or IA, shall be responsible for the orderly restorations and development of Intramurals as a monument of the Hispanic period of the Philippine history. It shall also ensure that the general appearance of the Intramuros shall conform the Philippine Spanish architectures of the 60th of the 90th century. government agencies. So the National Parks Development Committee or NPDC. The National Parks Development Committee was created originally as the Executive Committee on January 14, 1963 for the development of the Quezon Memorial Luneta of the other national parks. It was later designed of the National Parks Development Committee or NPDC. Despite of the attempt to transfer it to the Bureau of Forest Development, Department of National Resources, the NPDC has remained under the office of the President. The National Historical Institute or NHI, the President Decree number 260 dated on August 11, 1973 has declared certain sites, churches and places as the national shrines, monuments, or the landmarks and places their preservation, restorations, or their reconstruction under the supervision and control of the National Historical Institute in collaborations with the Department of Tourism. Hence, the National Historical Institute was given the right to declare the historical and cultural sites and edifices of the national shrines by the virtue of the President Decree Number 1, dated on September 24, 1972, the National Historical Institute was being given the authority of the preservations, restorations, or constructions of the several historic sites and buildings. All monumentary contributions and donations of the archives of the National Historical Institutes are the tax except the deductible from the taxable income of the donor. This is the National Center for Culture and Arts or NCCA. So this is the Public Act 7356 has been enacted in order to create the mandate of the National Center of the Culture and Arts. Its functions are allowed as follows. First is formulate a policies for the development of culture and arts. Second is to coordinate and implement the overall policies and program of attached agencies of the development of culture and arts as stated under the Executive Order Number 80. Third is to administer the National Endowment Fund of Culture and Arts. Fourth is to encourage the artist creations within the climate of the artist freedom. Fifth is develop to promote the Filipino national culture and arts. And lastly, to preserve the Filipino cultural heritage. So, by virtue of the Republic Act 8492, where the National Museum has now been detached from the National Commission of Culture and Arts and has now been placed solely by the budgetary purpose under the office of the President. The primary purpose of the National Museum is to acquire documents, preserve, exhibit, and foster scholarly study and appreciations of work of art specimens and cultural and historical artifacts. The next is the Philippine Conventions and Visitors Corporation or PCVC. The Philippine Conventions and Visitor Corporations or PCVC is non-stock, non-profit government corporation attached to the Department of Tourism or DOT, tasked with promoting the country as an ideal tourism convention and incentive travel destination. It conventions and incentive travel units or CIT provides comprehensive information, assistance, guidance to meeting planners and incentive travel organizers who seek an idea venues for their meetings and incentive groups. Next is the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP. So it is the Presidential Decree number 520 issued on July 23, 1973 empowers the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, formerly Central Bank of the Philippines, to organize a corporation which was managed and administered of the Philippine International Convention Center. Third is the National Economic Development Authority or NEDA. The National Economic Development Authority or NEDA is the country's independent economic development and planning agencies. So it headed by the president of chairman of the NEDA board. with the Secretary of Socio-Economic Planning. The concurrently NEDA Director General of Vice Chairman. All cabinet members, as well as the central bank governor, are member of the NEDA board. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, as provided under Section 4 of the Executive Order 192, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources is mandated to be the primary government agency responsible for the conservation, management, development, and proper use of the country environment and natural resources, including those in reservation watershed areas and land of the public domain. So the Department of Transportation and Communication, or DOTC. So this is the primary policy, planning, programming, coordinating, implementing, regulating, and administrative entity of the executive branch of government in the promotion, developing of regulations, and dependable and coordinated networks of transportation and communication system, as well as the fast, safe, efficient, and reliable postal transportation and communication services. Next is the LTO, or the Land Transportation Office. So the Land Transportation Office is the proper agencies which control the registration and operation of motor vehicles and the licensing of the owners, dealers, conductors, drivers, and similar matters. The next is the LTFRB, so the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulating Board. So it is the agencies which issues, amends, revises, suspends, or cancels certificates of the public convenience or permits authorizing the operations of the public land transportation services provided by the motorized vehicles and to prescribe the appropriate term and conditions. The next is the Marina, or the Marine Industry Authority. So this is the integrates the development, promotions, and regulations of the marine industry in the country. It was originally placed under the Office of the President. Next is the Air Transportation Office, or ATO. So this is primarily charged with the technical operation phase of the civil aviation's matter. Its primary function is to establish the enforce rules and regulations of the inspections and registrations of all aircraft owned and operated in the Philippines and air facilities. It is also in charge in the operations and maintenance of the national airports, air navigations, and other similar facilities. The next is the CAB, or the Civil Aeronautics Board. So this is regulates economic aspects of air transportation and has general supervision and regulations of their jurisdictions of control air carriers as well as their property sites, rights, equipment, and franchise. The next is the LRTA, or the Light Rail Transit Authority. So this is the corporate body which shall be primarily responsible for the construction, operation, maintenance, list of light transit system in the Philippines. So giving due regard to the responsible requirements of the public transportation system of the country. The next is the MRTC, or the Metro Rail Transit Corporation. So it is undertook to build MRT3, which it shall own for the 25 years, after which ownership shall be transferred to the Philippine government accordance with the Republic Act number 6957, or the Build, Operate, and Transfer Law. Next is the PNR, or the Philippine National Railways. So it is the corporation to the sphere of instrumentally of the government of the Philippines in providing a nationwide railroad transportation system. The national rail shall not subject to authority of supervision of the Public Service Commission. The next is the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI. So this is under Executive Order 133 which remains effective up to the present time. The Department of the Trade and Industry serves the primary coordinate, promotive, and facilitative aim of the trade, industry, and investment activities. It acts as the catalyst for the intensified private sector activity to accelerate sub-economic growth. Is the DFA, or the Department of Foreign Affairs. So the Department of Foreign Affairs is prime agencies of government responsible for the pursuit of the state's foreign policy and the nerve center of the foreign service worth of the trust and pride every Filipino. The next is the BFAD, the Bureau of Food and Drugs. So this is the agencies under the Department of Health in charge of the registration of processed foods, drugs, medical devices, the vitro diagnostic, reagents, cosmetics, and household hazardous substance products. The next is the Tourism Enterprise Zone Authority, or TEZA, is under the Tourism Act. The Tourism Enterprise Zone Authority is empowered to administer tourism zones, regulate tourism zones enterprise, and grant tax perks. So the Philippine Coast Guard, by virtue of the Republic Act number 5173, the Philippine Coast Guard has been created as an attached agency of the Department of Transportation and Communications. So the next is Nayong Filipino Foundation, or NPF. So the Nayong Filipino Foundation was created under the PD, or the Public Department number 37 on November 16, 1972, with the intentions of promoting, encouraging, and initiating research, development projects, and activities in the social science, humanities, and social and ameliorations of allied fields. That would be all the chapter 6. So when the private does well, there's revenue for a public sector by Jim Talents. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Once again, I am Allyna. Thank you and God bless.